Hello guys, it's Sean here doing another Bottleman video. It's been a little while, but yeah. This time I'm doing a video kind of comparing DX and God Cap. This is kind of a follow-up to a video I did a couple months ago where I talked about, if the prototype line held up and, compared to DX and why it doesn't. So I figure, you know what, let's compare DX and God Cap. That could be kind of interesting. So I'm largely just focusing on the God Cap releases since there's only 5. I'm not counting remakes or like Sprite or World Trade. Those are just all like things that just use pre-existing parts from God Cap. The only exception to that would have been Bottle Sphinx because it has its own cap, but I've already talked about the curve cap last year and why it's, pretty bad, so I think we could just kind of ignore that because it's not helping God Cap at all. So anyways, so first up, Draggart G. This thing is worthless. It's by far the worst Bottleman of God Cap, because here's the thing. There's a magazine that just does this better. Because first up, it's easier to load, and also you get A3 cut capacity instead of just 1, so this is like inherently bad, and also just take this out to use it as a normal power type. Well, guess what, Kokorio has like the same hold parts, and also has a barrel and magazine port, so yeah, this thing just straight up gets outworked. Like there's nothing else of note with Draggart. And now we get to Samet's G. So Samet's is strange because it has light caps, has the one magazine, which is not attached correctly. Don't worry about that. It just didn't want to cooperate. Anyway, it's close enough. Also, the one-handed grip here. Samet's actually has some stuff going on, but here's the problem. 2 of the 3 things here don't. Well, I guess one of the 3 things here is bad. Another one is highly questionable, and one thing here is actually useful. So, light caps, these, like a ring cap, type of designs, they are, bad. Just, the Chinese factories, unfortunately, just didn't have as good a plastic quality as the Vietnamese factories, and the caps suffered because of that. Whole parts also suffered, but, yeah, these caps are just really bad. Don't have as much power on them, yet take longer to shoot because of the extra crunch that comes with them. They're pretty bad. Now, the one-handed grip is actually the best one-handed grip in Bottleman, but with the cap combined with the hold parts also being crunchy and the plastic just being bad, it's hard to really recommend this core because there's just a lot of extra crunch and tension that just shouldn't be there. I would probably recommend Papillon. The one-handed grip on this thing isn't as good, I would say, compared to Samet's, but it is a one-handed grip, and also, you get this, trigger, which is also just better. I would much rather use this, at least personally. Yeah, the one-handed grip, you have to move some stuff to make it work, but still. It's not as good, but I generally just think it will be a better experience with the, better plastic quality. And if you don't care about one-handed grips, Red Arrow Cider just gives you way more power without the extra crunch, so this thing is just kind of nice, I would say. It's just kind of gets outworked, I think. The magazine, though, is good. You can definitely use this on the back of another magazine. If you're using like a DX core or something, this is still worth at least considering. But yeah, as a bottle on this thing, I don't think is very good. That said, if you use Vietnamese caps, this thing is at least usable, and if you really, really care about the one-handed grip, then this technically is the best. If you use, again, better caps, then also they're not light caps, which is helpful, but if you care about the one-handed grip, this is a good Bottleman, I would say. I just think that there is better, but hey, if you really value this grip, I think, then yes, this is something that you can at least, use, and it's still at least, fairly, solid. And now we have Deca V Tiger G. So Deca V Tiger is interesting because Raid Brave is just better than this thing, just straight up. Yeah, and you have a drive strip in there. So it is better than this thing. Even the power shot, I don't like the crunch in this thing. It's God Cap again. The plastic quality really always just comes back to haunt these things, unfortunately. There is one plus to this thing, which would be the vertical caps, as they do work the best in vertical cores, opposed to any other cap. So like this is genuinely useful, and it is worth getting some of these, I would say, even if the plastic quality is a little bit worse. Still can work in vertical cores. However, what really puts Raid Brave above Deck of E-Tiger, these ports here, you can put the Dragogena magazine, well, I guess the downsized version of that for Raid Brave in there, which gives it a 3-cap capacity. 3-cap capacity is just inherently going to destroy this thing, so yeah. Vertical caps are definitely useful, but even if you're just going, stock forms, I prefer this thing with 3 regular caps opposed to that with just 1 vertical cap. I still think this is just overall a better option. Again, capacity is very important, and having 3 caps opposed to 1, even if you want to argue that 1 cap is better, yeah, I'm taking 3 caps every time. No questions asked. Now, we have Kokoryu OG. So Kokoryu is a little bit strange because you power to pull parts, a barrel, and a magazine. You can't really do something like this in DX, but I'm going to say right now barrels, I don't think they're like that important, so the magazine's like the big selling point here with the power type hold parts. And this attachment here is helpful, getting 3 small caps, but at the same time, I think I'd rather just take more capacity up here instead. Like, this isn't bad, it's just like you could get Red Arrow Sighter, and you have the drive strip in there, you put like 2 long magazines on this thing, right? You have a 9-cap capacity. I think that's just better than what Kokoryu offers. Yes, you could technically just swap this thing out for a long magazine if you want to as well, and do the same thing. Then you actually have 12 caps technically with the 3 extras here. That said, I still just would prefer a DX core, and that's a big thing about this thing, is that yes, it's a DX core with the the drive strip. Would much rather have that over God Cap power type hold parts. So even without a proper barrel, which I don't think you could make here with the arrow barrel, but it's not great, but still, it's an option. But yeah, I just think that Kokoryu just entirely gets outworked by Red Arrow Sighter. And there's also like these power type power type arms that exist, which are worse than Colamar Energy DXs, so there's that. But anyway. Overall, like, Kokoryu is still really good. Don't get me wrong, like, it's still like a really, really good Bottleman. It's just that the hold parts, unfortunately, do have the Godcat problem. Barrels aren't as useful as they, might be made out to be. They're not bad, it's just, comparing DX hold parts to Godcat hold parts, DX not having a barrel, Godcat having a barrel, I'm taking the DX hold parts for sure over the barrel, and then, yeah. Capacity, you can just stack whatever on top of them, and yeah, it just kind of is a wash at that point. You have this, but I think it just gets to a point where, yeah, I'd rather just keep going crazier with capacity on the main core. This is still a solid Bottleman for sure. It's still worth using. I just still think DX has an edge over it. Yeah, Red Arrow Sighter, I just think really puts in a lot of work here, and definitely makes a lot of these Bottlemen not as good as they otherwise would be, for sure. But yeah. Kokoryu, yeah, it's still like really good though for sure, but yeah, I think Red Arrow Sighter is just better. And then there's Cola OG. So Cola OG, this is one of the Bottlemen ever for sure. It's massive. So Cola OG, I don't even think it's the best Bottleman in Godcat, because I think that the main core here, it's just so tall that it's awkward. Yes, you can angle it downwards, which it helps, but I don't know. 3-cap capacity on big caps is definitely useful, don't get me wrong. I just don't quite feel it's as good as it might seem. Again, it's just really tall. Also, I'm going to be honest, having 4 different triggers going on, that's just difficult to, like, manage. The small caps up here aren't going to do a whole lot, in my opinion, in comparison to everything else. You have the 2 vertical shots, but again, they're just 1 shot each. Each one requiring its own trigger as well, so it's a little bit messy, I feel. And in all honesty, if you really want a crazy, Bottleman, I just still recommend Dragogena, honestly. Like, I think it's better as a whole. I mean, you get, 8 caps in here. Technically, you can only have 2 shots if you shoot all the caps, you know, available per shot. So, you know, 2 quadruple shots, which is kind of crazy, but still, that's a lot of, you know, caps flying around at once. It's pretty crazy. You also kind of select fire maybe like, you know, 4 double shots. And also it's really easy to reload with the server wing. You kind of just, you know, drop, you know, caps onto here and they just kind of slide down. It's very simple. I just think you get more out of Dragogina than you do Cola OG. At least personally. So I find it hard to recommend Cola OG. I will say though, the one big thing that does have going for it is if you do some customization, this thing actually can have a bit more use, and I think it comes down to the core. Having a 3 cap capacity for big caps I think is genuinely useful. And while yes, I would still probably put Dragogina above that, or even, you know, Red Arrow Sighter with like a long magazine or 2, I still feel like a more proper version of something like this is definitely noteworthy. And you can definitely do some customizations within GodCap to make this like actually work well. And it's something that, you know, you can only do in GodCap. Yes, it's very committal because you do need, you know, big caps and you can't use, you know, normal caps in this core, but still, I think it definitely does work. And even this thing I think still works as is. It's just that it's very committal and a little bit awkward, and I would still probably prefer Dragogina, but like, I don't know. It's still solid, for sure. But overall, I do think, you know, DX really does just kind of outwork GodCap, and I think a lot of it just comes down to plastic quality. I think if you have better plastic quality, things like Samets would be a lot better. Same with Kokuryu. I think Kokuryu and Samets would actually be like contenders to beating all of DX, which is kind of crazy to say, but still, I think that would have truth to it. But I think with the kind of lackluster plastic quality, I don't think they quite get above that, and I think, yeah, realistically, Dragogina and Red Arrow Sighter just kind of shut everything down. I think, you know, again, with like Samets, if you don't care about the one-hand grip, I think any speed type from DX is better. If you do, I mean, you got Dipepion, that's nice, and if you don't care about the grip, I mean, Red Arrow Sighter is like crazy. I mean, I guess you also want power, not just speed, but still. Dragard is just outclassed within GodCap itself, so there's that. Kologi, I think, is a little too awkward to put about Dragogina. Again, if you use the core as is, like, again, like the Gold Dragart, that can have some use, but I would still probably value something else over it. But it definitely does stand up on its own to some degree. Deku Tiger, even with the vertical caps, again, Raid Brave directly, I think, outworks it with the 3 cap capacity, or at least the potential to have a 3 cap capacity, and, yeah, Kokuryu, again, another one that I think does have some genuine use. It's just really screwed over by the lackluster hold parts, and when you could have, you know, in my opinion, you know, much better power type hold parts than a magazine, I think you would probably rather choose that. Beyond that, though, I think if you go for pure power, there's even, like, you know, Colmar Energy DX. You could even just put that, like, you know, all the body parts of Colmar Energy DX on this core. You have that with a magazine. I think that already is, like, completely outworking most of GodCap, and that's not even, you know, using any GodCap parts, it's all DX parts. So if you get into customization, I think it gets worse. Because GodCap's also very limited in its customization. Yes, you can technically, you know, use different parts and swap between DX and GodCap with how these systems are. Maybe I'll do a video on that eventually and talk about if there's anything good that comes out of that, but still, generally speaking, I don't think you have to resort to going to GodCap for DX. So yeah, overall, I do think DX is still better than GodCap, and I think a lot of that does come down to, again, plastic quality, and also the fact there's only 5 releases, well, 5 like actual new releases in GodCap, so they stuck with the Vietnamese factory, and maybe the line was a little bit longer. I think GodCap would have had a genuine shot at being better than DX. Hell, even if the factory was just better, I think, again, like I said, Samets and Kokuryu would be problems for DX to, you know, have to overcome somehow, but, well, because they aren't great, you know, in terms of quality, I still think, yeah, DX does have an edge over them. And with that, I think DX is still the best line of Bottleman, beating out both the Prototype and GodCap lines. So, with that, that's all to say for this video, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.